Good morning to you. It's Monday, September 16th at 9:58 a.m. I forgot to turn on my light, so this is the video will be darker. I think the content should be lighter than the last time you saw me, but I apologize for the lighting in advance. I've got a couple predictions that I'm going to make right now. First one is I won't get as many views on this video. 5,500 views, close to 5,500 views on the last one, because Notre Dame fans came over to see it. Thanks for coming by, guys, girls. Appreciate it. And I'll talk a little bit about that idea in itself. And I'm also going to just talk from the cuff today about my thoughts after letting what we saw sink in a little bit after watching highlights and much of the game on video, because I'm a glutton for punishment. I'll give you a couple of those quick thoughts. And Matt Painter's philosophy and how it might make sense when you're looking at this Notre Dame debacle from last Saturday. All right. But before I do it, let me thank our friends at Homefield Apparel. Go to homefieldapparel.com. Enter Boiled at checkout for 15% off your first order. And also, when you're on campus, you're going to find there's a gathering of handsome people, and that's AJ's. It's a place where all the handsome, beautiful people go there. They get their pretzel bites, they get their mac and cheese bites, they get some delicious burgers, they get some Chicago-style beef burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. You can go to eatajs.com to pre-order. But when you're there on a game day weekend, make sure to check out the bottom of your pint glass if you order a beer, and you're going to see your buddies from Boiled Sports, your pals represented. And speaking of your pals from Boiled Sports, and speaking of just handsome people, like I said, I got to hang out with Anish and Jay and Jay's son on Saturday. That was great. Good to see them. They are, from what I understand, safely home. Jay was sending me messages via Instagram, sending me some memes and some things that don't matter, but it's a good way to relate. And we enjoyed ourselves a little bit last night, going back and forth via that. So I think they're back safely. Hope all of your friends and pals that came to the Notre Dame game from afar didn't have a lousy trip back, because that'd be just like insult to injury. And I know it happens, but gosh darn it, wouldn't that be a bad thing to watch an ass kicking and then have a bad drive? So an interesting interaction. If you look in the comments, I thought I offended a player's mom. And I don't think I did after she and I went back and forth a couple times. But I want to make something very, very clear, that my philosophy in the past, if you've been around Boiled Sports a long time, has always been to side with the players when something like this happens. Granted, something like this has never happened. A 59-point loss has never happened in the history of Purdue. Allowing 66 points has never happened in the history of Purdue. So this was unprecedented. But I thought I offended a player's mom, and I don't ever want to offend a parent of a player if the kid's not a malcontent. And this kid's not. He's a really good kid, and he's a good player. He's got big upside. I hear nothing but positives. And it turns out I didn't offend his mom, thank God. But I want to make something really clear. In my opinion, when I look at this whole thing, there's one of two things that's happened. Either A, the assessment of talent has been way off, and so my optimism was wrong about the people that came in, the recruits, and the portal additions to the roster. The talent assessment was just wrong, and Purdue is way, way, way behind a program like Notre Dame, or any program. Honestly, if they would have played anybody that way in Division I, they would have gotten select. I believe this to the fiber of me. So it's either talent assessment, or B, it's scheme and preparation. In my opinion, it is, both of those would fall at the feet of the coaches. So I'm going to be there first. I know, and I said, so I'll clarify something else. I said that players, families better get ready and used to criticism, especially in this day of social media, because the players are getting paid. I didn't mean from me. I meant from people that are out there on the internet who have either bet on the team or take it so seriously and now say, your sons are now paid. They are professionals. you're going to hear it from them. And it's going to be sharp. It's going to be like professional sports. And this is the can that's been opened up. Make no bones about this. This is the can that's been opened up by the NIL era. When guys are paid, when they are looked at like professionals, they are going to be judged harsher. Let's look across the pond. If you're a fan of soccer, 16-year-olds get judged by the media and by fans that are playing professional soccer really, really roughly. It's critical. The comments that are made are rough. These are kids. They are still 16-year-old kids, regardless they're getting paid a lot of money or not. In this case, these are 18-year-old kids to 21 to 22 to 26, actually. There's some out there. But they're getting paid. And so on one hand, you are correct. It's okay to judge these as pros because they are pros. On the other hand, I would sprinkle a little sweetness into your commentary, and keep in mind they are still kids. Some of these are kids that really take this stuff to heart. So if you're going to be critical, I would suggest all of us take a step back and go at the pros. Go at the guys that are getting paid millions of dollars or more. Most of them are not players. And take your shots there. That's just my philosophy. And I hope I didn't send the message that I'm going to eat players up. In fact, I had many chances on the post game to really get critical of some specific players in their failures. And I will be critical of specific players in different situations. I didn't want to do that after that game because I didn't want it just to come out in like hellfire. They don't deserve that. Okay. And they did. There are some guys that played really, really poorly. So I'm not going to mince my words there. There's some guys that missed tackles. There's some guys that didn't do well in the assignment for blocking. Throws were missed. Hudson Card. I will call it Hudson Card specifically. He made one of the worst decisions we've seen in a decade, 15, 20 years in Purdue football with that push pass with his left hand. Hudson Card's a really good guy. This is a guy that I've met. This is a guy that I'm happy he's at Purdue, and I can say that play was a boneheaded play. I think we can do that too. We can separate. We can say, okay, they played like dog shit. Let's move on. So the next question is, do you move on? Do you move on and burn the tape? Or do you, to quote Matt Painter, sit in it? Should Purdue, the team, the coaches, the players, the fans sit in it? Well, here's the thing. Whether the players and coaches decide that's the way they're moving forward or not, the fans are going to be sitting in it. And we're going to be sitting in it in a way, and this is a good explanation to all the parents of players that might be watching and the family of coaches that might be watching, and even, heck, some of the coaches that might be watching. You guys are in a little bit more of a bubble than we are. I know you're not on social media. I know you hear it there. But Purdue fans, especially in the state of Indiana, are going to hear it this week. Okay? So a game that you lose to a team that's in-state is rough, number one. A game you lose to in-state to a team that has a massive fan base is rougher, especially if you're a person like me where you always wear Purdue gear, okay? If you're watching this, you're probably diehard enough that you're not jumping ship after one loss, or you're not even thinking about it. You may be a season ticket holder. You may have a kid there. You may still be there. But you're a diehard fan. That's the whole point. You're going to hear it this week, and it's going to hurt. So we're going to sit in this game, and we're going to marinate in this result for a while. It's not going to be 1 week. It's not going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be well into the future. Years into the future, we'll still be hearing about this game as fans. Some players have no idea what that's like because they're not from the state of Indiana. They're going to get a little ribbing from their friends, but it's not going to be the same. So on our side of things, just the fan, I always call Boiled Sports as a fan site. We're not media. We're nothing else. We are fans assessing what we saw, telling you what we saw, talking about what we saw. I don't know if we have a handsome hour coming tonight. I'm almost sure we do at 9 p.m., by the way, but I really felt driven to talk about this. Now, on the other side, coaches, players, staff, athletic department members. There's a lot to take away from this game that you can build upon it. Weird thing. I heard an overwhelming chorus of the idea of this Purdue Notre Dame game being compared to the Fairleigh Dickinson basketball game. And part of the reason it's being compared, obviously, let's look at the parallel. The big parallel is an unprecedented loss that was an embarrassment for the program, right? Fairleigh Dickinson loss was an embarrassment, absolute embarrassment for the basketball program. Lowest point ever in the history of a long basketball program. This was one of the lowest points in the history of the football program. And I say one of the lowest. I bet this is in the bottom 5. I think it's that bad. There are worse things that have happened. Obviously, off-field stuff is true embarrassment to the university, to the point where you have to do some PR to try to repair the perception of players and students and organizations. That's serious embarrassment. That's worse than a loss. That said, Purdue University needs to understand something, and the athletic department needs to understand something. Losing that bad is a black eye on the entire university. And the reason that is because your name is plastered all over that, and you just did something so poorly that you're now a laughingstock of the nation. I've said this for years. Purdue has excellent academic prowess. You've got one of the best bargains in America, if not the world, of an education. Kids leave there prepared to go out and get jobs. Kids leave there prepared to go be the best in their fields. And yet there's some sort of weird disconnect at times with the athletic department and some of the philosophy there. This is a marketing wing of Purdue University. And what we saw is really, really tough to swallow for the brand of Purdue. Make no mistake about it. Is it the end of the world? No, it's not the end of the world. Is it solvable or curable? Yes, it is. How do you do that? You go out and you win. You start kicking some ass and playing the game the right way. Now, can they do it with the parts in place? Here's my thought. If you put Purdue in the position where they were given a few months to practice perhaps a different or a tweaked scheme with different motivations, I think these players are well good enough to go out and win. Northern Illinois looked no farther than 9 days ago, in South Bend. Northern Illinois did not have the talent that Purdue has. I will stand on that till I die, okay? And I'll use another illustration. I said, what is this coaching debacle like, this Notre Dame game like? Is it like Coletto? Is it like Akers? Is it like Burtonette? Is it like Hazel? Is it like Hope? It's like Coletto. Here, my opinion, it's like Coletto because Joe Tiller took over Coletto's guys. Not a lot of them left the program, and he went and he won almost right away. These players are good. Okay, there's where I'm going to stand. This is going to be my opinion. Did they miss tackles? Yes. Did they miss blocks? Yes. Here, I'll give you a good example of a really talented guy making a bad play and it turning out really bad. I already gave you Hudson Card. Hudson Card's talented. A lot of programs wanted Hudson Card to come play quarterback for them. Purdue was lucky enough to get him. Kedron Jenkins, KJ, made maybe the precedent-setting play of the Purdue Notre Dame game. He took a very bad angle on Notre Dame's running back. He decided that he wasn't going to go and try and knock him out of bounds. I don't know if he mistimed his steps. So many things are bad there. It looks like he takes a bad angle. He lets up on the play and thinks, oh, okay, he's going to step out, I guess. And then the Notre Dame back just flies up the sideline. I don't think he was touched after that. That was the first drive of the game. It was probably the 5th or 6th play of the game. And it felt like, oh boy, we're in for a ride. Well, it turns out we were. That was foreshadowing. Jenkins is a really good player, guys. But what's the issue? The issue is perhaps Jenkins is out of position because he's not playing the correct position. Last year, granted, he was across from Nick Scorton, who turns out he's a really good player. He ran from Purdue for money, but he's playing for Texas A&M. He's a good player, talented guy, okay? But when Jenkins was opposite Scorton, those two were a bang-up duo of defensive ends. They were very, very good, right? Jenkins is now playing linebacker. Maybe I don't know if he went and requested the coaches to play linebacker this year. I really don't know how that transpired. But everybody says if he's going to play in the pros, he needs to play linebacker. Okay, fine. Maybe we've seen he doesn't belong at linebacker. That play, and that would come back, not on Jenkins, to me, that goes back on the coaches. Jenkins was a damn good defensive end. He's got a high motor. He's intense. He hits like a mother, but he looked a half step slow or maybe a whole step slow on a couple plays on Saturday versus Notre Dame's Thoroughbreds. I don't think anybody can contest that point. So that would come back to maybe you make the adjustment, get the guy back into his position where he belongs, where he's been playing for multiple years. I don't know. I'm not a coach. I don't get paid millions of dollars a year, $4 million, $4.5 million a year to coach. What I do get paid is $0 to do this. And I love doing it. And I love talking to you guys about your thoughts on the game. But I don't think all is lost. I will still be coming to the game. Like you, I feel a little bit battered and bruised, kind of licking my wounds. But I thought Notre Dame was going to beat Purdue. I never hedged that bet. And I don't bet, but I never backed off of that. Somebody said, no, everybody was on Twitter. Somebody said to me, we were all fooled by the Indiana State result. No, we weren't. No, you weren't. If you're level-headed, if you know what Indiana State was coming in, nothing against Indiana State, but that's a team that was, they were fighting an unfair fight. We knew that. And I kept saying, maybe we should take this with a grain of salt. So I wasn't fooled by that. And I thought Purdue would lose by less than a score. I thought they'd beat the spread, which, again, I don't bet, but I thought they'd beat the spread and be tantalizingly close, but Notre Dame would kind of keep them at an arm's length. Notre Dame would have like a 10-point lead. Maybe Purdue knock it down to 7. Maybe they'd have a 9-point lead. Purdue knock it down to 6. And you say, oh, if only they could have gotten the ball. That's what I thought was going to happen. Instead, it was never a game. And here's the funny thing. I've always disdained Notre Dame for many, many reasons that I won't get into. In the comments, Notre Dame fans jumping in here saying things they think are clever. They're not clever. Nothing you said was clever. Nothing you said was new. And I hope you're watching and listening. And nothing you said really pissed me off either. That's the thing. This is the really interesting byproduct of this. I may not care about Notre Dame as a rival at all anymore because now I'm so sobered up to say, oh, good. We're not on the same page. We don't belong on the same field with Notre Dame. And that's kind of what happens with rivalries. Ask IU fans. When Purdue was beating the hell out of them in basketball for 9 straight games, IU got pretty bored with losing. And they started seeing Purdue's not a rivalry. They didn't have any fire in their belly towards Purdue, I can tell you that. But what wakes up that rivalry? The win. When you beat that team, you're like, hell yeah, we're back. We belong on the field with you. Purdue did not belong on the field with Notre Dame. And it's kind of a shame because one of my favorite things is really disliking another team and another program. And when they're that much better than you, what business do you have doing that? Or when you're that much worse than them, whatever, however your perspective is, right? You just say, yeah, take our medicine. They're not good. Let's move on. That's how I am. I mean, I don't like Wisconsin. I haven't liked Wisconsin since Barry Alvarez was hired at Wisconsin. I go back that far, okay? But Wisconsin beating Purdue for an entire generation, it doesn't make me hate Wisconsin. It makes me say, well, can't beat Wisconsin. Let's move on to the next game. Wisconsin looked awful this weekend. They lost their quarterback, confirmed. I think they lost their quarterback during the postgame here. But yeah, Wisconsin lost their quarterback. Wisconsin is playing poorly. And a lot of people think Purdue and Wisconsin might be the 2 worst teams in the conference right now. I think that might be an accurate assessment. I think Northwestern is not very good still. I don't think they've proven a thing to me. So if you're going to put a bottom 3, Wisconsin, then I'd say Northwestern, then Wisconsin, then Purdue's down like 5 rungs based on what happened this weekend. So there you go. Purdue gets ready for Corvallis, though. They probably will ship off or push out, however you want to say. I think they take a boat out to Oregon. I think that works. But they'll probably take a trip out to Corvallis it's going to be early in the week so they can get their bodies ready for the time zone change. This is the new precedent of the Big Ten spanning from New Jersey to Oregon. I know that Oregon State isn't in the Big Ten, but it's a little foretaste to what you get to deal with, what the players get to deal with. Stupid era. It's a real test of Purdue's mettle. Now, here's the other test. Are the coaches so stubborn and so bullheaded that they can't just say, we need to change some things? Do they not watch the film and see how slowly these plays developed on offense? Because regardless of Card's ability, number one, the offensive line could not hold their block. That got my attention. I told you that bothered me. But the second part, those plays were so slowly developing there were about 7 plays that it looked like they were at a good cadence to counterpunch a defense. But most of the plays were so slow that Carr was waiting for things to happen. And I think part of that is a demonstration of Notre Dame's dominance at corner. They had great cornerbacks. Purdue will not play a defensive backfield as good as Notre Dame again this season. So that's a good thing. Purdue also should have C.J. Smith back. So that's a good thing because you have another burner. I don't think Purdue had a burner on the field. That's the other thing. They have guys that are big, strong, good-handed, good route-running receivers right now. They need a guy to take the top off of a defense, and I don't know if they have that right now on the field without Smith. So that'll be helpful whenever he comes back. Is that a 59-point difference maker? No. I love the receiving corps. I love these guys. And some of them, they're doing everything they could, but they didn't get the ball thrown their way. There was no time for that to develop. So will Graham Harrell decide that he's going to put in some plays that are faster developing? What was the difference maker? Let's use history again. I love looking at history. What was the difference maker for Purdue football when they started actually becoming a player again in college football back in 1997? Joe Tiller had fast developing plays and moved the offense so quickly that defenses were constantly on their heels. The bubble screen is what I referenced the other day when I talked about my favorite Notre Dame win. But the bubble screen was just one part of Jim Chaney's offense. That offense moved fast, struck fast, did things that forced defenses to take risks, and then they would get burnt if the quarterback had the ability to assess the risk, right? So you have to have an offense that can move quickly. The West Coast offense, by the way, is pretty far away from the Joe Tiller spread. But one thing they have in common is that they pass under defenses. They force you to say, are we going to play bump coverage to stop these short routes? Because they're getting 5 yards a tick on these routes, right? Do we have to come all the way up? And when you come up, now you say, we even have an advantage because you've got your DB a yard and a half from our wide receiver, and a couple of these guys will burn your ass, right? Some changes need to be made on offense and play calling. There's no doubt, right? We really didn't get to see Maccabee used as a weapon or Love used as a weapon either because the offensive line couldn't create space. But again, I'm not putting this all at the offensive line's feet. I'm putting this at the scheme's feet because Purdue was in tight formations there. There was no space. And these plays were so predictable, so vanilla. You're playing a team you already know is more talented than you, right? I hope, Coach Walters, Coach Harrell, Coach Kane. You should know that you are outgunned today. But I don't think they thought that coming in. I think they thought, yeah, we're ready to go. Okay, so talent assessment, you think you got dudes that can match up with their dudes. Okay, so now you're going to play a style of offense akin to Ohio State in 1995? Okay, good luck with that. Not only is it not modern, it's a recipe for disaster. Second part, on the defense. Coach Walters, I'm going to plead with you. And I heard the press conference comments about, okay, I'm not going to change everything I do. I'm not going to change my philosophy because of one game. Okay, this is where the sit in it part comes for me. You play a defense that is predicated upon man-to-man coverage, guys being as good as the guy across from them. Guess what? I hate saying we, but Purdue's football team, I didn't earn the ability to say we. That's why I say that. I'm not a player. I was never a player for Purdue. I don't deserve that. But Purdue is not as talented as many of the teams that they're going to play this year because this schedule is so rugged. Anish says that's just the way the new Big Ten is. Fine. Right, regardless of where you think about that. But they're not as talented as the offenses they're going to play. And offenses already have an inherent advantage in this era of college football, right? They just do. The rules are set up that way. To say you're going to go man all the way out and your guy that's going to follow the quarterback is 30 yards from the line of scrimmage is a problem against a team with a quarterback that can scramble. Because what he's going to do if he's worth his weight, which Riley Leonard, what he did was just poised, right? He would scramble enough that he would make the decision to wait for his thoroughbred A+ grade A receiver to go find space and separate himself from the defensive back that's guarding him and he's going to shred you there. Or B, he's just going to use his feet because he only has one guy to beat. One guy to beat. And generally that one guy to beat, by the way, isn't near the play. Part of the reason Dylan Thieneman missed so many tackles is because he was coming downhill so hard on so many plays. He was on a dead sprint. He wasn't coming up and chopping his feet. He wasn't assessing the play, looking at it. He was trying to get there because there was no one there in space to guard Riley Leonard, to pick up Riley Leonard, if you want to use a basketball term, okay? So he's coming downhill, running. He's one of the fastest guys on the team on a dead sprint, and now he has to change direction? Riley Leonard has all the cards in that case, doesn't he? Or the Notre Dame running back had all the cards if he was passed out in the flat. Does Purdue pass to running backs out in the flat anymore? All right, enough ranting. That's a long rant. Boy, this will do it. 25 minutes in, I haven't talked to you guys. Let me talk to you guys a little bit. Thanks to everybody who's live this morning. Do appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who's listening on delay. Appreciate that as well. But Jim Garfinkel is first here, like he often is, and Ted Berkey's second. Diehards, thanks, guys. 7 a.m. in the left coast. Morning does. Morning. It is 7 a.m. on the West Coast. Yes, Jim. And by the way, I work with West Coast-based clients, so often my end of my day goes pretty deep because of working with people that, they don't get in the office. I've found this out working with West Coast-based clients the last 5-6 years. A lot of people avoid traffic and they don't even go to the office till 9:30. And then they're there a long time. So people think about West Coasters as real laid back, but man, they can work. They can put in the time at the end of the day. Ted Berkey says, good morning. You too, sir. Dowd. That's what autocorrect said. Morning does. Yeah, sorry. I hate autocorrect. Thank you, Jim. Boiler Bugle says, happy Monday. Dick Stillwagon says, boiler up. And Dick has been making the rounds. I watched Dick was really, really active in the comment section with Golden Black. I don't know whether to be proud of Dick or to be feel like I'm getting cheated on. I got to work through that. It's not your fault, Dick. Ryan Michael Anthony Harrington says the idea of running a Mike Leach style offense was so exciting when we made our hires, but we aren't running the air raid in his image at all. And Graham Harrell in his defense has said, I don't just run the Leach air raid. I run an air raid that's a little different. It's a lot different. One of the big differences with Graham Harrell's air raid and Mike Leach's air raid is Mike Leach's air raid was exciting. Goodness gracious. Save us, Graham. Do something. Dick Stillwagon says it hurts worse considering IU is playing well. And IU is playing great. I said that on Saturday night. IU is playing great. IU, the best comment we had in the section describing IU, IU is organized. IU has they have a personality. They have things that define them. They are good. They're a good football team right now. Get used to this world we're in unless things change quickly. Adam P. says, good morning. Jim Finkel says, in my opinion, I think the staff was so worried about injuries that they never really taught or pushed players to be physical, to reach another level of physicality against bigger elite programs. I think you're correct on some level, Jim. And I also think this is a widespread problem in college football. The irony is you have so few teams running full contact in camp that when they get to full contact, they look bad. A lot of college football teams look bad right now. A lot of college football teams do not look battle tested. Georgia looks bad. Georgia looks like they are not physical at all. Georgia couldn't even run the ball. And I think much of that comes from not running things at full pace in practice. Obviously, you keep guys from getting concussions, lower body injuries, right? So that's positive. But you don't have an on-ramp. Georgia's playing Kentucky, third game of the year. Kentucky wants blood. They end up barely edging a Kentucky team that probably doesn't belong in the same field as them physically, right? This shows up a lot of different ways. Tennessee is beating the hell out of teams, by the way. Who's the other one? There's one other team that I was shocked with that is ready. Very few teams are ready to play, though, and I think that comes from that philosophy. Greg McManus says, hello. New week. Let's go. Yep, let's move on. I agree. Nethanala says, Nethanala. This is going to be a tough one for me. I hope I am close on that. Says, burn it. Tuned in late. Do we think that Indiana State gave us a false sense of security in the playbook of the team? Graham, a little surprised. He had absolutely no time back there. Yeah, so I would say you're partially correct that the coaches may have thought Indiana State gave them a false sense of security or false sense of confidence. I think that's a good assessment. I don't think many level-headed fans took it that way. I really don't. But that may show the youth again of this staff. That is something that rears its head. One thing that's great is Walters has taken full responsibility for this, and he says, this all comes back on me. He said there's nothing positive to talk about after that game. So I love that he is upstanding in this way. But, man, they show their youth a lot. And I don't know how quickly they grow up as a coaching staff. And I mean this in the nicest possible way, that these guys, just like you have upside players, you have upside coaches. This coaching staff is all upside. There's so much potential there. Now, will they reach the potential? Coach Walters is one of the biggest potential coaching hires ever. He could do huge things. How much patience does Purdue's fan base have? We'll see in a couple weeks how we show up for the, will it be a Nebraska game? I think it's the Nebraska game, which is homecoming. It's a real good question of our mettle, right? How will we be ready? Will we be ready? Let's see what happens. Dick Stillwell says, forget the negative critics, dock their NIL pay. Yeah, that's one way to hold people accountable, but they don't do it, right? There's no monetary punishment for not doing a good job, and you don't really cut guys and cut their NIL pay. That doesn't happen. So this is one of my problems with this era, is that you're getting the best or the worst of both worlds, depending upon how you look at it. You're paying guys a lot of money, and then you can't just cut them and end their contract, right? You can't just say, okay, we're going to create some salary cap space and get rid of them this offseason. That really doesn't happen, you know? So it's not great the way things are. They need more structure. There's no doubt. Dick Stillwagon says, anyone else have an issue with the piles of trash on the ground outside the gates? Yes. It looks awful. It's not good. Towards the end of the game, it looked horrible. It always looks horrible at Ross-Ade. The hired company that does concessions, they leave something to be desired. Yeah, that's another black eye on Purdue. I agree. Pignola Photography says, what hurts the most is that we saw a game that after 2 weeks prep, yeah, that does hurt. And coming off the bye and being that ill prepared and knowing what Notre Dame is, Notre Dame didn't do anything exotic, right? They just beat Purdue's ass old fashioned way. Greg Manis says the D coaches need to show them the angles, etc. Kane and Walters need to have a plan B and C scheme. Obviously they had a single plan. They had no way to adjust. Yeah, they didn't adjust at all. And the second half effort, that's what somebody said to me. It may have been you. Somebody said to me on Twitter that their biggest problem was Purdue was down 42-0 at the half, and they came right out and got punched in the mouth again. Didn't have any pulse. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's my biggest problem. Being down 42-0 at the half when it could have been even worse somehow is a big problem. And I'll reiterate this: Freeman could have laid 100 on Purdue. They could have. Notre Dame could have. Dick Stillwagon says, handsome hour tonight, jackpot. Yeah, I think there'll be one at 9 o'clock-ish. Adam P. says, I'll be the voice of optimism. Good. Like to hear this. I don't think the team is as bad as what we saw at Indy. There is no way they're that bad. Let's be real honest. There's no way. The Indiana State game showed us some growth from last season, and the Oregon State game will prove me right or wrong. I think Purdue will look much better against Oregon State. I do not think this Purdue team is this bad, for the record. So they couldn't be. I said it to somebody. This is historically unprecedentedly bad. They couldn't be this bad. Ben Carnahan, my buddy from Arizona. He's not from Arizona. That's where we met. That's where my world begins. Always when I meet somebody, they never existed before that, Ben. So I apologize. This is not even close to being compared to FDU. And okay, yeah. So let me compare the second part of that. It is not close to FDU. Why is it not close to FDU? Purdue was number one in the nation many times when they lost to the 16th seeded Fairleigh Dickinson Knights. Notre Dame is a top 20 team, top 15 team, top 10 team, depending on where they land this season. Purdue is not a ranked team. Purdue is in the state of rebuilding a culture, rebuilding a program. We thought they were a little further along. Purdue basketball is a baked product. Purdue basketball had the player of the year on the team. Purdue basketball season was over and done and kaput when they lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. Purdue football has an entire season to get the taste out of their mouth. These are all good points, Ben. I don't know if you said those points, but that's what I was thinking. Ted Berkey says, missed the game, so my opinion should be lower value. Yes, it's going to be lower value, but go ahead. I like Walters as a person. I want him to be successful. It seems like he does everything right outside of 60 minutes a game. Yeah, I like Walters. I like him a lot. I like the fact that in press conferences he says, this was my fault. I love that. I like the fact that last year he said, hey, I didn't know what this was going to happen this way, because he's admitting his youth is what he's doing. Granted, he's not a baby, but he's been around football his whole life. But he is 30-something years old, 37, 38 years old, right? So, yeah, I love the fact that he's an accountable guy. I love it. I love his personality. I've met the man twice. He's a good dude. He's a guy you'd like to hang out with. He's a cool guy, too. Cool guy, and he's in incredible shape. Holy moly. Those arms. Wait, sorry, I got lost. Ted Berge says, unfortunately, the game is all that matters. Yeah. Zachary Young says, wore a Purdue hat to work today with a smile on my face. That loss wasn't the end of the world. It didn't feel good, but the sun came up today. Sit in it, move on, boiler up, hammer down. It's a mindset. Hats off to you. That's awesome. That's great. I'm not wearing a Purdue sweatshirt, not because I'm a bit embarrassed by Purdue. Obviously, I have a podcast. My son gave me this sweatshirt, so as a gift he sent back. Nice of him. Sent one for me and TBD, my daughter. John Younger says, agreed, Adam. People are just caught up in the moment right now. Yeah, it's a tough moment not to be caught in. Adam P. said, ISU actually won last weekend, which surprised me. I did not see that, and that matches their win total from last year. Maybe they were embarrassed by the way they got beaten by Purdue. Ancient Atomic Immortality says, as a Purdue and Colts fan, I'm already over football season. Holy crap, Sunday stunk, didn't it? Colts are bad. You talk about a team that looks like they're in over their head. Goodness gracious. This quarterback experiment, I got no time for it. That was bad. And the Colts have been messing around at quarterback now for close to a decade, if you really think about it. I mean, like, just messing around. Ever since Luck decided to retire in the preseason, makes no sense either. Should have retired before. It left the Colts with their pants around their ankles. They have not been able to recover. But Anthony Richardson, he can't throw a short pass. He doesn't know how to check down well. That matters. Everything looks like he's trying to throw it through a wall. I mean, he's got a big arm. That's fun. Good athlete. Yep, strong guy. Got to play quarterback. The comparison between he and CJ Stroud is so stark. Stroud is so cool under fire, makes such good passes. Stroud also has weapons. Blame Ballard. Blame Ballard for this. Richardson's not as faulty as what he is. Again, I'll go with that. Even at pro level, Richardson is what he is. You can be mad at Richardson because he's not a very good quarterback, but blame Ballard. My gosh, man. John Younger says, I still enjoy the rest of football season. I don't understand people who bail after a loss. It's tough to put your heart in something and then have every week be not fun. So I don't begrudge people who say, man, I can't do this week in, week out. My college roommate said that pretty much. I'm not going to do it though. So I'm with you. Ancient Atomic Immortality says it'll get worse until Purdue starts actually dumping NIL money into football. These athletes are mercenaries nowadays. So you're missing a couple things there. Number one, Purdue put a lot of money into NIL and they are improved. But to say that this is this simple, that it's just Purdue needs to buy their way out of the situation right now, Purdue will never, okay? They will never have the NIL numbers that Ohio State and Notre Dame and Georgia and the truly elite teams do. So you could say let's think, what are some of the businesses that Purdue has alums from? Klipsch and the Red Gold Tomato Company, the Redenbacher popcorn fortune. There's some good ones out there, right? But if they dumped all their money into NIL, Purdue still wouldn't be there. Do you know that? Because there's people like T. Boone Pickens' family, I think T. Boone Pickens passed away, who are dumping oil money into a program. There's people like Phil Knight, who said, there's no limit to what I'm investing in NIL because I want to see a championship before I die. So Purdue does not get on that same page. They never get there. So you have to have schemes and development ideas and a program that our guys care for each other and they love to be at Purdue. That's the thing. You got to get that part right first. And I think they're starting to understand it. Painter has it down. Painter understands it right now. Okay, we're going to say our academics are part of the equation. If that's not important to you, you're already out. Right away, you're out. And I think that's good. It's a good place to start. Second part is, do you like this place when you come and visit? Third part is, do you like these guys? Do you like this culture? Do you want to be a part of this program, right? Or are you somebody that's like, oh yeah, give me the bag. Okay, if you're the guy that's giving me the bag, go someplace else. Let's get it all out of the way now. And if you know a young recruit and Purdue's on their list, but they're just about getting the bag, tell them to go someplace else. There's another place that's going to pay them more, right? Purdue, you're going to make a damn good living. Holy moly. I have still not made as much money as many of the guys on Purdue's roster, and I do fine. That's the other thing. Look at the long run here. Go get your damn degree and make a good living. You're going to do it. The chance of having a good living is studying. Even, I mean, I'm not trying to put anybody down. You know, I wish I could have played football. I wish I would have been a good enough athlete. Wish I would have been taller. Wish I was a baller. But the degree's got to matter, and Painter's got that down. And Purdue is still paying NIL to basketball players. I have heard the number thrown around with Braden Smith this year. It's a lot of monies. Many, many monies. And, yeah. So that's good. He deserves it. He earns it. His market value is high. Good for him. He also loves Purdue. Look at that. It can happen, guys, girls. Greg Manis says, I also don't bet, but those companies employ enough data geeks that their numbers are useful. Yeah, they are. I don't know why that spread's shrunk down so far before. There's that interesting comment. Dick Stillwagon says something. Where did it go? Gosh darn it. I hate Yahoo's interface. It's really bad. Says, turn on super chats. We'll pay you. Nah, maybe later. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll get there. I appreciate that, though. I should turn that on. We don't monetize enough. We're kind of half-ass monetized right now and still don't make any money. None of the money comes in my pocket, for the record. We've literally been sued multiple times, actually, different type things. When you've done this long, you get sued because people are jerks. But we got sued one time because this guy thought that we had so much money that he was going to come after us. I was like, cool. We don't have any money. And it's not a bit. We don't have any money. Boiled Sports does not make money. The individuals do not make money. The entity has money in its accounts that it goes right back into the company. It's not even much of a company. It's not a corporation effect at all. Sorry, a lot of inside information. Big Time Boiler says, man, oh man, I'm still dumbfounded we look like that, especially the offensive line. Grant, I saw this, and I think you said you call yourself an expert. I don't mean to call you out. You said you call yourself an expert. I don't call myself an expert ever, okay, for the record. But you said you do. You and I were pretty much eye to eye on what we thought would happen in the Notre Dame game, and we were very wrong as experts. So, yeah, it says, I'm going to choose to believe that it was just a perfect storm against us unless we look similar against Oregon State. Going to be tough at Oregon State. Corvallis is a tough place to play, boys and girls. Ted Berkey says, don't forget UCLA at the bottom. Yeah. Oh, gosh, darn it. Thank you, Ted. Gosh. Yeah, I would put them. So let's say the bottom four of the Big Ten. Let's do this. Let's rank the bottom four of the Big Ten right now. Let's put Northwestern at fourth to last. Let's say, I'm going to say Wisconsin. Third to last. I'm going to say UCLA, second to last, and Purdue last right now. Sorry, Purdue. Got to earn my love. Not really. Not really. They've already done it. I love you guys. Jim Garfinkel says, CRW, Coach Ryan Walters, needs to drop his pride in his airstrike defenses. Airstrike defense makes no sense anyway. I know that that's what they say. Players have to win matchups. We can't seem to do that at a high level. He needs to be innovative and scheme his defense. This is a good chance of a young coach, right? There's great opportunity here for him to show us that he does know what he knows. He's got to innovate now. He's got to mix it up. Really good chance to test what this guy knows. It's good. It's a good thing. There's an opportunity here. I agree. I don't know. Jim Garfinkel says, I don't know. The Ohio State may have a better secondary than ND. I don't think so, but the Ohio State University is going to have 3 pros out of that group, probably, at least. I'm told Notre Dame has 4. So when I say pros, I mean not NIL pros. I mean real NFL pros. Why don't we just move on from all this charade? All right. Dick Stillwagon says, can't tackle when you're scared. That's a good point. Grant, Big Time Boiler, says, I think it's also pretty clear that they didn't do a whole lot of tackling in practice with starters. Not at all. I think Walt was a little concerned about getting the team as healthy as possible. He clearly was. It's a good point. Mike M says, ND fan here. Your bigger issues are on defense. ND's defense is very good. They'll make most offenses look good. I'm not sure if you watched Purdue's offense, Mike, but Card had no time. I appreciate you checking in. Card had no time, though. And I think Purdue has big issues on both sides. So Mike continues, says, saw some indie reporters mention that Purdue looked like they had no idea that Leonard was a threat to run. Oh, they knew, Mike. And if you go back, and I'll tell you, go back and watch the Syracuse-Purdue game last year. We all did. See, you weren't here for that. And it sucked. I guess I can't remember the guy's name. The Syracuse quarterback is not as good as Leonard, and he absolutely shredded Purdue last year. Shredded them. Same exact thing, because this scheme really struggles against quarterbacks who can scramble. So they knew, they just couldn't do anything about it. So Purdue has problems all over the field. Nolan Hostetler says, worked for the team as a student when Hazel was there. Hate to compare, but that was very reminiscent of those days and just not being prepared to play. So Nolan, I'm going to tell you something about, we had some interaction with players, and I guarantee you interacted with this one guy. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but we had an interaction with a guy during the Hazel era. And he told us we came into some games and we just knew we were going to lose. The funny thing is, I knew guys really well from the Coletto era because I was on campus. And I can tell you, many of those guys never thought they were going to lose a game. Every time they were just heartbroken and wrung out because they thought we're going to beat them. And all those guys who were on Coletto's team, they were huge, number one. The specific people I'm thinking of in my head right now, because I can think of 5 that were recruited by Coletto that I knew really well enough to talk to them about what they thought after a loss. All of them had amazing egos where they're like, yeah, I'm the best player at my position in this state, if not this conference. I'm the best player at my position. And they were like, I don't know why we're not winning. I'm really good. He's really good. He's really good. Guys during the Hazel era, there were multiple on the team. The good players, don't get me wrong. Great athletes. But they were like, yeah, not going to win today. So I don't think we've got that happening in the Walters era at all. I don't get that. So just my 2 cents. James Ferrote says, if I was a coach, I would be having the team puking and wind sprints till they get tired. Can't do that anymore, James. The bad old days in that way are not a thing anymore. Yeah, they should have practiced on Sunday, but I'm sure they didn't. Greg McManus says, funny, Harold's version of air raid looks awful like the 80s Big Ten offenses. Yeah, it does. It's really reminiscent of some bad era football. And I am a short attention span guy. I love to see explosions and fireworks and long passes. Call me whatever you want, America. James Ferrote says, line coaches and Harold's jobs are on the line for me. Yeah, James, I'm going to get into something I didn't really get into deeper. I looked this up when Coletto was there. Purdue lost to Minnesota 59-56. I tweeted this. The next day, 2 coaches had their resignations accepted by Coletto because they allowed 59 points. Okay. Purdue allowed 66, and it could have been 100, like I said. And Sunday came around, and now Monday's come around, no resignations, unless they've happened during the show. I think guys should have gotten paid whatever they had in their contract, and I think a couple guys should have been canned. So I'm with you. Chris Curtis, and I like these guys. Again, I will reiterate, this isn't personal. This is about the business, and the business was a failure, abysmal failure. Maybe they give them another week, and if they do it again, then you fire people, but somebody should be held accountable. It's just me. Chris Curtis says Walters took back play calling on defense last year, right? Yes, I believe he did. Did they go back to Kane again this year? Don't know the answer. Wish I did. Don't know the answer. John Reinhardt says, this magnifies how far away Purdue is right now from top 25 in talent. I don't think so. I don't think it's about talent. Again, I will look back at history and I'll say, remember the Coletto years. Then remember the Tiller years. This team is similar to those Coletto teams in that they have big time physical bodies. I don't think there's a lot of speed on the field right now. I will say that. So like you compare and contrast. Hope and Hazel teams were fast and weren't very physical. Right? Hope, though, had the advantage. He had Tiller guys still on the roster. Hazel had Hope guys on the roster, which he recruited speed, and it's shown up in the NFL, right? A lot of Purdue guys in skilled positions have succeeded from the Hope era. Hazel era, you had the remnants of that, and then you had sadly the kind of the trimming out of that philosophy because Hazel didn't have much of a recruiting philosophy at all other than go after the best quarterback you can get. And a lot of those guys went on and started elsewhere after transfer and whatever else. John Reinhardt has a couple. He says, he says the regression of the O-line is a major concern. Not getting Maccabee going was frightening. I agree. That's tough to watch. T-Rex says, if you believe you can be a consistent top 10 to 20 football team, you sit in it. If you know you are Purdue and will mostly be outside of that, you burn it. Yeah, I don't think so. I think this is going to define you one way or another, so you embrace it. That's my opinion. That's my opinion in life, right? This is defining Purdue. This loss defines Purdue, and they better live with it. They better learn from it. John Ryder says, having my AM coffee with Boiled Sports here in SoCal. Thank you, John. We got a couple California West Coasters here getting ready to hopefully you're going up the coast. I know it's a long trip up to Corvallis, but shorter than coming all the way out to Indiana. And I think there's nice direct flights. Oh, boy, getting to Corvallis is hard. I take that back. Getting to Corvallis is hard. Unless you're a Portland-based boiler. Still hard, but it's hours of a drive versus, yeah. Q Turner says, was there with my daughter? I saw that. You said that on Twitter. Front row, 50-yard line. Hardest thing was coaching. The coach is not adjusting. Man-to-man, no zone, same long developing plays. Yeah. All man. Yeah, absolutely. Ed Albanese, the king of gummy bears, gummy worms, and confection, says, I am not bailing out, but it's difficult to see positives for the future. Evidence is this. I'm here listening to Boiler Dowd during the workday. I canceled a meeting. All right. Priorities are right, Ed. John Younger says, the new white pant needs to go global because go global and became worth $1 billion. The new white paint. There we go. That new white paint needs to go global. I'm sorry, and became worth a few $1 billion. Or maybe someone can invent something using AI from the School of Technology. AI is going to invent everything soon. It's affecting my job. I can tell you in a good way right now, but I don't know if it'll always be. In fact, I don't think it'll be good very long. T-Rex says a lot easier for the basketball team to find 2 to 3 plus players out of 11. For football, you find 22 plus players out of 50. I think our focus in the wrong place, fans. I think there's talent here. I really do. Maniacally Steve says, Braden getting many monies, but is he getting J monies? I'll see myself out. Thank you very much, Maniacally Steve. That's a great comment. And no, he's not getting J monies because that's next level money that very, very few get into that 1%. Thank you by the way, everyone who perpetuates this, I love it. And it makes just Jay mad, makes him mad. I caught it. You guys didn't understand what I said. Makes him mad, which is fun. It makes him, but he's fun. He's a good sport too. So, but thank you for that comment. And I hope he's listening because he usually listens to these. This is a pretty deep one, almost an hour. John Young says, Ed, you donate some of your gummy bear fortune to pay Dowd? This is a good question, Ed. John, thank you for bringing this up. These are great questions. You guys are on point today. The Albanese gummy bear fortune is worth many monies. And yeah, it's the least you can do, Ed. This is funny too. Good. Let's see. Michael says, Garrett Schrader was a Syracuse QB. Thank you for that. My brain doesn't work. Michael's does. And he says, like your hoodie, where'd you get it? So I got it as a gift from my son. And I don't know where he got it. I literally texted him directly, where'd you get it? And he didn't give me an answer. So LBD, if you're listening, you could sound off here. I doubt he is. Brian T says, feels like a repeat of the early 90s with great basketball, big dog, subpar football, only all-star was bright spot. I need an all-star on the field, though, Brian. I said that. I literally said that during the game aloud. I yelled it, actually. Where's my Mike all-star? Where's my one bright spot? Give me my one bright spot, please. I need to have a guy on the field. And I'm like, yeah, okay, at least we got him. He's going to make some big plays. Going to run for 130 yards today, carry the ball 28 times. We need something. But that's the difference. That offensive line was beastly. They went on to be a lot of NFL talent on Coletto developed and recruited offensive lines. Went on to be Tiller, all Big Ten and All-Americans. Went on to be NFL Pro Bowlers. And that's not an exaggeration. That's what I'm talking about with this talent thing. Matt Light was recruited as a tight end along with one of my really good friends. Grew up with him. They were both recruited as tight end for Purdue. They were both behemoth men, big, strong dudes. Light became Big Ten, then was a Pro Bowler. Brandon Gorin, same thing. Brandon Gorin was a guy who had to put on some weight because he was so athletic. so long. Now his son is a recruit, which is awesome. Brandon's a great guy, by the way. If you don't know him, I highly suggest you meet him, Brandon Gorin. That doesn't make any sense. Ed Albany says, does Tiller have a son where he might have passed to him some of his genius from football side of things? Yeah, no, I don't think he does. I know he's got a daughter, and she's a nice person. And Arnett, his wife, is still around. She's awesome. But I don't think I always wonder questions like that. Is there anybody? So that's the whole Mike Leach idea with Harrell, is that when you study under someone, you pick it up, right? You pick up what they have to offer. And Graham Harrell didn't pick up everything from Mike Leach, I don't think, sadly. Mike Leach is gone. Rest his soul. Michael says, Purdue will bounce back on Saturday. He's an optimist. But how can you watch the game if you don't have CW? Well, if you've got YouTube TV, you've got CW. So that's kind of the biggest streaming service, the live streaming service right now. So if you don't have CW, I think you need to probably go to a sports bar someplace. So that's bad news for a lot of people. Greg Manis says, Saturday I drove, Anish drove. How did Jay get there? Private jet. You know the answer to that already. Okay. Maniacally Steve says, Greg, I assume Jay took his private helicopter. So that could be. It was either jet or helicopter. He can't take his what do they call it? Catamaran jet boat. He couldn't take that to Purdue. So this is good talk, guys. This was good. Mohill 93, my buddy, says at work, listen on tape. Yeah, I think it's good that you convert it to tape. I think that's great. I don't know if you do like old-timey reel-to-reel like my dad had in the basement, or cassette, or 8-track. But regardless, if you're listening on tape, that's great. So, and if I say tape, I guarantee I say tape. Do I say tape delay? I probably do. But I'm glad you're listening on tape as well. John Reinhardt says, love the show. Few moments, not close ever to Allstott. Punting was outstanding. Love the punters. Punting is winning. He didn't say punting's winning. I added that. That's the Iowa phrase. I think that's it, guys. I mean, an hour. Are you serious, Boiler Down? This was supposed to be quick. We're getting together. Here's an Irish person. Irish Gordon Knott. Great name from your boys. Great game for your boys on Saturday. Fought hard, but caught Indy at the wrong. They did well. I'll be rooting for Purdue for the rest of the season. Thanks for checking in. Hopefully you tell your friends and you give us 5,000 views again. Thanks. Thank you, Notre Dame fans. Gosh, it's got to be easy to be a Notre Dame blogger. Holy crap. I mean, I wasn't even on my A game. I was upset. I was angry. And a ton of people came to watch. I can't imagine if I just would change my sweatshirt. Let me tell you a little history. My grandpa played golf at Notre Dame. I hate Notre Dame. I was the freaking leprechaun at my high school, and I hate Notre Dame. It's got to be a nice life, though, if you're a blogger. I picked the wrong topic, talking about Purdue sports. But I'll tell you what, I don't have a lot of quantity here, but we got quality. You guys have displayed it today. Comment section has been on point. Fivers OMG says, ND fan here. Look at that. Sorry we let your anger out on you. We were a little upset. Yeah, I think that Marcus Freeman was merciful. I said that before. I think it could have been much more angry. I don't think Notre Dame looked necessarily angry. They weren't cheap. They weren't hitting Purdue at the wrong times. They weren't headhunting. They just looked better. They looked focused. They looked fresh the entire game. Even after injuries, their second, third, fourth guys would come in. They looked great. Second string quarterback comes in, throws an absolute dime. Maybe the best deep ball, semi-deep ball we've seen in years. They just got talent, and they were focused. They were dead focused. So good on Freeman for getting them ready. Kevin Pass says, just got here, sit in it. Agree with Kevin. I'm with you on this. Greg Manis says, leprechaun, the jokes wrote themselves. Yeah, exactly. Greg, you know me. You've met me multiple times now, and yeah, it's pretty easy. I was made for that role. I didn't have a beard in high school, and I didn't fake that. I didn't tape one on, but yeah. 5'4", and now I'm told by the doctor I'm 5'3.5", which is absolute horrendous news. So for reference, if you've seen the LeBron and what's his name? Kevin Hart commercial. They're hilarious, by the way. That's hilarious. That's a good straight man, funny man duo. But I am the same height as Kevin Hart, and it shows that Kevin Hart is like a midget on that commercial. He and I mean, like, he's like the in shape black version of Boiler Dowd, and slightly wealthier. In shape, different race. Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. That is it. And I'm not taking another comment, not taking another question, not talking anymore because we've had a great time today. 59 minutes. We get in here on the wire. No, I'm not looking at those comments that just popped up. You're not going to get me there. So if you had a bet that I was going to do it, I'm not doing it. God bless you. Hammer down. Have a great day. Have a great afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the West Coast. We'll talk to you soon. See you later.